So we came looking for dogwood, and then all the bits where there was dogwood has been landscaped. So we were a week too late. But if you can see just in the background there was one bush left. So we have our dogwood. Let's just do it. Well, there might be wood lice, so we probably should leave it actually, shouldn't we?
I told you.
Oh, just do it, is it? I go 50 wood lice. We're having a nice winter's nap. Can you hear the sea? Did you see? Can you hear it? At the top, this woodland is full of these pits. This is a limestone wood, so some of it's been mined at various points in history. There's a little fire down there. What's down there?
There's a bottle down there.
There's a bottle, yeah. I think someone's been having a party beer, haven't they? You coming up? Come on, the sea's just in front. Let's have a look. You see it?
Yeah.
There it is. So we've got, well, this isn't a berry one, love, but we've got a holly tree where the holly isn't too sharp. There's the sharp stuff. There's the not sharp stuff. So that'll be easier for me to make into a wreath, won't it? So let's get some. Okay, there's the ash that fell 6 months ago. Was it 6 months ago? A year ago? It was like 12 weeks ago. And then there's the stuff that's being made out of it, and a full woodshed as well. If you can hear someone saying poop in the background, it's because Idris thinks it's hilarious. But these are working woods, so this is a really nice example of how things carry on in here for everybody in the community. Hi, so we are back from our walk and we have collected our dogwood. If my eyes veer off camera, it's because I keep forgetting the camera is there, and because I've had to do like selfies so I can see if I'm in shot, your eyes just naturally go over to where you are as if you're talking to somebody when actually it's yourself. So yeah, we've got back from our walk. It was our first walk for 6 days because we have been self-isolating. We thought that Idris had COVID, and so we all had to get tested because we were feeling unwell as well. And they all came back negative today. So we went outside and I've been able to collect the dogwood. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to kind of show you what I did last year. I don't know if I'm looking at this and seeing how well it's going to work. I'll just bend it quickly. Yeah, it should be okay. So I kind of make an last year I made an asymmetrical wreath, which both Idris and Stephen were like, really, like, what is that? That's not a proper wreath. And it's true, it's not a circle, so that's a bad start on their from their perspective. And it also, I decorated it just on one side. I will decorate the whole of it this time, but it is going to be a teardrop shape. Let's see if I can bend it. Ooh. It's going to be like that. Dogwood is really good. You can get it in green and red. That's generally how you spot it. This is a little bit of both. I just think it's really good because it's kind of seasonal, Christmassy. My mum put me onto it last year. It's quite bendy. I have just gone into the garden and collected a couple bits of hazel that are quite bendy as well, because I might want to add a bit of bulk to it. But I'm basically going to tie these with some garden string at one end, making sure I leave a loop because that's where we're going to be hanging it from. Then I'm going to plait these branches as best I can. It's going to be quite difficult at this top end where they're a lot sturdier, but by the time we get down to the bottom end it should be a little bit easier. And then I'm going to bend it round and unite it. So I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. Okay, so as you're kind of plaiting it, you do want to give it a little bit of a bend up in these top bits. You can hear it creaking a little bit, just because if you don't give it that little bit of a bend, oh, it will spring loose, which is what it's just done. Maybe I should have not bent it whilst I was showing you. I will be able to thread these back in now. Just done it a little bit tighter this time. So you've got your kind of teardrop shape, and what I would say is if you're going to do it asymmetrically, you obviously need to pick the side where there are the thicker branches, because you're just going to be able to hold more. And the reason I plait it is just because you've got more room to kind of wedge stuff in between. And I think what I'll probably do at this point is I might create maybe a second teardrop shape that is sort of slightly internal to that one, so that I've got a little bit more option again. I might go and get myself a third one of these, just to give it a little bit more room, because ultimately the framework is what is going to hold it together. I'm probably not going to go asymmetrical this year because of the disappointment that my child showed, so I will just make that second lattice work for in the middle, and then we can start putting the plants in. Okay, so we've got the second bit in. Don't worry about these loose ends, because you're going to need loads of string to secure all the plants anyway. So I've tied it up the top here, and I've tied it on the edges here, and that's just made the whole thing stronger, so I don't think it's going to flip apart now. So I would say decide what your back is. The back for me is this side now, just because, you know, all your loose string can be on the one side, and then it's just a case of getting the plants. So the plants I've chosen are pretty traditional. Sorry, just to dive out of shot there. I have chosen ivy, and I've gone for a couple of different types of ivy. I've gone for kind of bunches with the blackberries on. I've also, just reach that, gone for longer bits of ivy. I don't know if you can see this. This is, I'm going to wrap this around the whole thing as a base. Again, it'll just kind of add strength to the, it's all stuck in the bag. It'll add strength to that sort of teardrop shape, and the more strength you can add to that, the better. There we go. So some long bits like that. So I'll probably just, if that's the thing, I'll probably just wrap it round like this. And then I did find some other extra bits in the woods that I liked. I found some box, some long bits of box. I don't know if I'll use all this. There's a whole bag, so I'm never going to get through all of it. I also really like using bay leaves. I'm a big fan for bay leaves on Christmas decorations. I just think they look really, really nice. This looks a bit raggedy, but honestly on the thing it'll be okay. And we have got masses of rosemary. So I did pick a little bit of rosemary off of this. Oh, it just smells like Christmas to me. Like roast potatoes, you know. So I got a bit of that. Obviously we've got some holly. I didn't choose red berried holly because the birds are still eating it. Plus the berries will likely drop. I mean, they probably won't drop outside, and this is going to be hung outside our door. I might pick a couple of sprigs with red berries on Christmas Eve, but I tend to leave it for the birds. And then I'm thinking at the end that we might put some flowers in, depending on how it looks. So I'm going to put a few base ones in, and then I've got to call the child who was requested to do some of this. I don't know if he's going to do any of it on video, because he's just been so difficult recently, or forever maybe. I don't know if you can hear all the birds, but the bird feeder is just to the side of me, and the sparrows have been having their chit chat. They have a couple of chit chats a day, and then they all descend on the feeder. So I also don't know what's going on here. This was an accident. This was me trying to put it up in the middle, and then it ended up going to the side, and I don't know whether it looks good or ridiculous. I shall leave it to you to decide. Okay, so I'm going to thread a couple of bits through, and then I'm going to call the small person. Okay, so Idris has added some bits to the wreath. It's starting to look a lot more wreath-like now.
Do it now!
I'm just talking to the camera to tell them what I've done.
What are you doing, guys?
I've also I've also got, I don't know whether I can use these, but I've got some teasels which we plant for the goldfinches that never come. And I've also got this old like artichoke flower. I don't know what you call it, but they're enormous purple flowers that grow in our garden. So I have got some really huge ones. Oh, crikey. You took the whole set. But I don't think that's going to fit on a wreath really. So I might get one of these and two of the teasels. And then I've got some gypsophilia. So I will try and thread those in now and we'll see what happens. And the other thing I was going to say was, there's probably some people questioning where the water is going to come from. So last year I think I wedged moss in between the sticks, but I wasn't able to wedge enough. So what I tend to do is either pick stuff that's already dry or dries really well, like gypsophilia just looks beautiful even when it's completely stone dry. And also evergreens just hold their water really well. And I also just make my wreath like a week before Christmas. I never make it at the start of December or anything like that. So we've got in here ivy, holly,
And the door on the other side.
box trees, things like that. We've got all that in there, and that's all quite, you know, that's all evergreen. So I think last year it lasted quite well. I'm not going to bother with the moss this year. I also got really upset about how many animals are in the moss, and I really worried about all the spiders and bugs and stuff. Not to mention the tardigrades. So I'm going to put these on and then we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so it is a bit asymmetrical after all. Actually, looking at the camera, I might put something else there. So I've got the little teardrop there, the little teardrop there. I managed to get the artichoke flower there and a couple of teasels and then one up the top. So I think, I don't know, maybe that bit's a bit too much down there. I think what I tend to do is, if there's bits that I'm not fond of, right up until the last minute, I'll start cutting them away. Let's try and get some of that. That looks a bit better. Maybe a bit more. And I think you shouldn't be afraid to cut the bits off even as it's on the door, because it's not until you actually see it on the door that you realise whether it's the right shape. So I'm going to leave some of the strings loose until I get to the door, and then I'm going to hang it and see how I feel about it. So there we go, in situ. I think it looks all right. I think these bits are okay. The only thing is it's slightly tipped. It should be like that. So I might have to get something to put behind the other side. But otherwise, I think that's very Christmassy.